Franchising is the most misunderstood and most overlooked form of entrepreneurship. We're here to educate you and help you find the entrepreneur within. Franchising is not all about the French fries.
We find that individuals who are exploring business ownership tend to have a lot of misperceptions and misunderstandings about the franchise industry. So what we want to do is help prospective business owners make confident and educated decisions before moving forward or not moving forward with a business. Welcome to Unpredicted Entrepreneur.
Hi, welcome to episode 70 of Unpredicted Entrepreneur. I'm Roxanne Rapsky, and this is my colleague, Sarah Wasco. We created this podcast to bring you education and information about business ownership and all things franchising. And today we are very excited and amazingly honored to have with us a huge name and representation in franchising. We've got Catherine Munson with us. She's the CEO of Propelled Brands. She's also the former IFA chair. The IFA is the International Franchise Association. She's the only one in the history of the IFA to have served 2 consecutive terms. And this year, she was inducted into the IFA Hall of Fame. So welcome, Catherine.
Well, thank you, Roxanne, and thank you, Sarah. I am absolutely thrilled to spend some time with you today.
We are thrilled as well. So let's just dive right in. You've got quite a story, and apparently entrepreneurship you were exposed to it at a very young age. So can you kind of walk us back to that and then how you got into franchising?
Absolutely. I was blessed to be born into a family with a mom and a dad that both were interested in owning their own business. My dad started a small insurance agency, and mom was a preschool teacher, and the director of the school said, "Florence, you ought to have your own preschool." So mom and dad opened their first preschool, which became 5 preschools over time. And then they added kindergarten, and then they got to a big campus. But starting at 8 years old, I used to go on the weekends with my dad. I'm the oldest of 4. And we would drive to a school. We'd mow the lawn. We'd clean the toilets. And the amazing thing is they have tiny little toilets for kids' tiny little butts, right?
That's right. I remember that.
It's quicker to clean a tiny toilet than a big toilet. And we'd mow the lawn and we'd clean the kitchen. And then since I was the only one in the family that enjoyed organ meats, I want you to think kidney, liver, gizzard, heart, he and I would cook organ meats for dinner and then drive home. And on the drive up, we'd talk a business. And on the drive home, we'd talk business. So starting at 8 years old, I was experienced to customer service, accounts payable, accounts receivable, profit and loss, all kinds of great things, marketing. How do you attract customers? So by the time I was in high school, I was in love with the business of small business.
Wow.
Now, I'd never heard what a franchise was. I graduated from college. I was a couple years into my career, and I remembered that my goal that I set out for myself in high school was to become president of an organization. And the business that I was in, or the job I was in at the time, I was a buyer at Beckman Instruments. Now, it was cool. I got to meet like the founder of Intel and the founder of Advanced Micro Devices. And that was really cool for a woman in her early 20s. I was having great experiences. But I've never seen a buyer become a president or a CEO. They become purchasing managers and die. I mean, I might be being harsh, but there's not a lot of career growth in being a buyer. And so I said, okay, Catherine, get back to your dream. You want to be in leadership. And so what are the typical ways to get there? Engineering, not an engineer. Finance, I understand finance, but I'm not passionate about it. Sales and marketing. And I love sales and marketing. So I started looking for a sales and marketing job, and I got hired in August of 1980. So if you do the math, it's way more than 20 years ago. So I am in my 44th year in franchising, but I got hired by a little franchisor called Sir Speedy Printing Centers back when they had under 200 locations. And I got to be part of that team that grew it to well over 850 locations. We became multi-brand. We had an accounting franchise for a while before we had someone just offer us tons of money to buy it. We started Team Logic IT. We got to buy Multicopy Europe, and I got to run that business and be the managing director of Multicopy Europe for 2.5 years. We bought our biggest competitor, Pip Printing, and then I got to be the president of Pip Printing. So it was a fabulous 28 years with what started out as Sir Speedy. and became Franchise Services, Inc. And what I found is I fell in love with franchising. I was already in love with small business. And then what I fell in love with franchising, the reason I did is because you get to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
Absolutely.
You get to get brand, training, marketing, all of that. You get to control your own destiny. You get to own the business and build wealth for your family, generational health, create jobs, economic output. And that, I might even be slightly more in love with franchising than I am small business, and I'm deeply in love with small business. So I'm a convert. I'm a preacher. I love franchising. And if I think about my career in franchising and the way I've been able to help people create that generational wealth, I know that I can identify at least 1,000 people that I help become millionaires. And that's a big deal. There are not a lot of people that can say that, right?
That's a big deal. That's a huge deal.
It's a huge deal. So repeat that. I think that's worthy of
say it
repeating.
again.
I can go back and look through my career and know that I was involved in helping over 1,000 individuals become millionaires with this glorious thing called franchising, where they bought into a great brand with great training and great marketing and great support that kept improving and innovating, because that's what good franchisors do. They improve and innovate because the market changes, competition changes, technology changes. You have to keep innovating. And I have friends, close friends that I still socialize with that were Sir Speedy franchisees, that were PIP franchisees, some in Europe that were Multicopy franchisees. I have now been with the firm I'm with now for 15 years, and I still socialize with folks that I helped get into business 25 and 30 and 40 years ago.
That's amazing.
The time flies when you're having fun.
Now,
right?
that's exactly right. And, there's all kinds of research that shows that people who are in helping industries get joy out of their jobs. They know they're making a positive difference in people's lives. And I get that every single day. I get to make a positive difference in people's lives, helping them achieve that dream of business ownership and wealth creation.
Wow. Well, I know that working with your dad at that young age gave you your work ethic, but there's something else about you that gave you grit. You talked about learning how to be a victor in life. So I don't know if we want to touch on that, but there's...
Hey, look, I am an open book. I am transparent about my childhood. And the reason I am, look at me, I'm getting emotional. The reason I am is I think it helps other people to know. You might look at me and say, oh my God, she's got this great life. She's been successful, must have been a great, easy childhood and a great, easy life. And that's not the case. My mom, unfortunately, succumbed to alcoholism and became a really mean alcoholic. And I heard starting at a young age that I was the reason that she drank. And I was the reason she and Dad fought. And it was all my fault. Now, in a wonderful blessing, it sounds kind of weird, Mom took everything out on me, the oldest of four. And so my three siblings, did not have the same kind of abuse that I had. And I could have chosen to go, woe is me. I had this horrible childhood. I have very few positive memories of anything involving my mother. But through some great therapy in my 20s, I learned that I have a choice in life. And that choice is be a victim. Woe is me. I had a bad childhood. Or be a victor. I'm in control of my destiny. I'm in control of my mind. I'm in control of my future. And so one of the most rewarding things I can do is talk to groups of young people and talk about this is a decision. I also have one of my favorite things that I love to talk about, which is what I believe are the 5 common characteristics of all highly successful people. And the great thing is they're all learned skills. It isn't how you were born or what your parents were, but it's positive mental attitude, goal-directed behavior, self-motivation, a sense of urgency, and never stopping learning. And so when I get to talk to high school kids and college kids about, hey guys, we all had tough childhoods. We all had tough things. And you're short and you're tall and you're black and you're white and you're whatever it is, right? You might think that I don't have as many opportunities because I'm a woman. Whatever those crazy things is, those are all in your mind, right? You create more value for your employer. You're going to get promotions and pay raises and bonuses. You work hard to implement the model of your franchise. If you become a franchisee, you're going to create great generational wealth for your family. So the reality is we control our destinies by the choices that we make. And it's about mindset, and it's about drive, it's about learning. So that's what I like to talk about.
I love it. I love all of that. And I can relate to a lot of, well, we won't talk about that here, but I can relate to a lot of your past.
Can't so many people.
So many people.
And so many of them hold in. And another thing, my mom committed suicide in my mid-20s, and I'm the one that went to the morgue and identified the body.
Oh,
so
geez.
I could be like horribly obsessed about how horrible that was, or I can now be a support to people who experience suicide. I can be a blessing to people who have similar hard experiences like I had, and I know I can bring value. So I see that as a positive. And that's why I'm transparent about that background and my experiences, because I kind of feel, this is going to sound a little hokey and I might get a little emotional about it, but I truly believe that I am here to make a positive difference in other people's lives. I mean, I really believe that. When I have somebody who's had a suicide or is battling cancer or has lost a family member, right? I have a gift given by God, nobody else, that allows me to bring blessings beyond what most people do. And that's why I'm here. And I didn't know I was going to go down this path, and I didn't know that I was going to get emotional. And I'm going to just kind of tap this little tear out of the corner of my eye. But that's really why I think I'm here, right? I really think I'm here to make a difference in people's lives.
And you give people hope. You know, anybody can really accomplish anything, like you said, with a positive mindset and just the drive and determination. And it's possible, you know, for anyone. So thank you.
I'm in complete agreement. It is really about self-determination. And, you know, I can remember in the 60s, the big thing was to say, you got to find yourself. I don't think you find yourself. I think you create yourself. I think you make yourself. You make a life. You don't find a life. And you do that by choices. And so that's what I try to live every day.
I love that.
And it is very clear in all that you do, the way you serve the franchise community, the way you serve in your business. So, you know, we as franchisees and in the franchise industry are very blessed to have you be such an advocate for us and for our clients. And Roxanne and I feel a lot the same way that you do about having the opportunity to make a positive impact in people's lives.
And change lives, for sure. And enjoying it. It's fun. Like you said, time flies when you're having fun, or you said that.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Propelled Brands. That's who you're with now. So can you tell us a little bit more about Propelled and we talked about platform companies and the different brands that you have. And
So I was very blessed to be recruited by Rourke Capital Group, a private equity firm that had already acquired Fast Signs. They acquired Fast Signs in 2001. And I was recruited in 2008 to become a CEO. And I had been a president. I'd been in a multi-brand environment because Sir Speedy, you know, acquired some other brands and started some other brands. And so I am familiar with that multi-brand environment. And I was a president. I wasn't a CEO. And I've always wanted to be one. So I got this wonderful blessing to be recruited by Rourke Capital Group to become the CEO of Fast Signs, which I did January 1st of 2009. And I loved building that company from under 500 to over 765 locations today. We're in 9 countries. It's just been fantastic. Wow. But the most important thing is, and really what I believe about franchising is, you got to focus on franchisee profitability, right? And so we have tracked average franchisee profitability at Fast Signs every single year since I've been there, and we've had amazing increases in that profitability, both in dollar volume as well as a percentage of revenue. 2 good ways to look at it. It's good to look at both ways. And so that's very important to me. And I've had this dream in my heart of building a multi-brand company. And I'm very blessed to have new private equity owners, Light Bay and Freeman Spogli, effective March of 2019, who share my vision and are willing to invest in me and the firm to buy additional brands. So our first acquisition was Nerds to Go, Nerds. Think computer nerds. In a most positive way, I love Nerds. Nerds to Go, which is a franchise that helps small businesses have all of the IT and computer and technology support they need. So that was our first acquisition. That was in September of 2020. And then we were able to acquire My Salon Suite, which is a salon suite franchise. We acquired that company in June of 2021. And we're so excited to say that effective January 31st of this year, 2024, we also now own Camp Bow Wow. So we've got 4 fabulous brands, 2 that are more of an owner-operator model, Fast Signs and Nerds to Go. 1 that is great for absentee or semi-absentee ownership, My Salon Suite. And then we do have absentee owners and investor owners in Camp Bow Wow. And we also have folks that spend their days in their multiple Camp Bow Wows. So we love all 4 brands. We're actively looking. In fact, we have a bid out right now on a 5th brand. And I'm putting together what I think is going to be this group of fabulous brands. And here's what our mantra is, or our philosophy about franchising for all of our brands is the number one most important thing is franchisee profitability. And in every company, we measure it. And in our FDD, in our item 19, we list it all the way down to profit.
Wow.
Many franchisors don't. They might, some do nothing.
Right.
Some give sales revenue. Some give sales revenue and some margin information, like cost of goods. But we are such believers in building growth in franchisee unit level economics and growing profitability that we put that right there every single year in our item 19 all the way down to net profit. We think that's absolutely important. And we believe that once you've got great margins and good profitability, then focus on driving profitable sales growth. But if you've got tight margins, selling more isn't fun. All that is longer hours with not much return. So we kind of focus, number 1, on great margins and unit level economics. Number 2, growing profitable sales. We're always focused on selling and quickly ramping new franchisees because you got to get them past that break even as fast as possible because red ink is painful, right?
Yes, it is.
Red ink is painful. And then big focus on franchisee satisfaction and franchisee engagement and interaction. And so we have in our office on a wall a flywheel of what we call franchisee success and best practices. And it's franchisee profitability, growing profitable sales volume, selling and quickly ramping locations, franchisee satisfaction, and franchisee engagement. And so if we do well in all of those things, the business starts to power itself. As you think about a flywheel, powers itself and keeps going faster and faster and faster. We've done that very successfully at Fast Signs. We're doing it at Nerds to Go. We're doing it at My Salon Suite, and we're so excited. We're about 3 months in right now with Camp Bow Wow, and we're doing that there as well. I mean, my team, I've got a fabulous team. I am blessed with great people. My team has been doing value engineering on the My Salon Suite model. And for brand new construction has taken out about $150,000 of expense without hurting the brand at all.
Wow.
So what's that? Better return on investment, right? That's all part of profitability, cash flow, return on investment. We're now doing the same thing for Camp Bow Wow and have already identified about $120,000 from startup expenses, the building, the construction of the box. And those are the kinds of things we focus on. And if I wasn't blessed with such a good team, we wouldn't be able to get it done.
That's huge.
It really is huge. I think it's intriguing about the diversity of your brands and how different they are because some of these, what do you call it, a platform company?
So
they bring in industry kind of specific, maybe home services or business to business or whatever.
There are some that are in the fitness area and there are some that are only in what is needed around the home. And I think everybody can have their own investment thesis. We're focusing on franchising best practices and we're looking for brands that are good and we can make better. We're not looking for brands who are in trouble, and we're not limiting ourselves to say only business to business or only business to consumer. Now, the one thing I don't think you'll ever see me in, I know you'll never see me in, is food, because I think food takes a special kind of a mindset, and I don't know that I have that experience or that knowledge or that I can bring that much value to it, but we are looking for great brands that we can make even better in the B2B or B2C space that can become true category leaders.
That might be a little bit of a commercial. I don't know. You might be getting some phone calls after this.
I can't turn it off. I'm sorry. It's just the enthusiasm I have for the business. It doesn't change. I cannot turn it off.
Your phone's going to be going
awesome.
ring, ring, ring. I have a business. Ring, ring, ring.
We look forward to those calls.
That's awesome.
So talk a little bit more about the platform company, because when we were having our review call or prep call, you said that's the single biggest
trend in franchising.
Yeah, so talk more about
that. So the single biggest trend in franchising, it has been for about the last 10 years, is the creation of multi-brand franchisor platform companies. And here's the primary driver. The most important measurement of a franchisor's really making it is something called royalty self-sufficiency. Each one of your franchise locations is most likely paying a royalty of sorts. Technically, we might call it a service fee because of how you might tax a royalty, but for discussion's sake, let's call it a royalty, a percentage of sales. So at Fast Signs, it's 6% of sales. But to reach royalty self-sufficiency, to where the royalties you collect every month is paying all the bills of the franchisor, it generally takes 100 locations, doing about $650,000 a year in revenue at a 5 or 6% royalty rate. You got to generate about $3 or $4 million in royalty revenue to pay all the bills of the franchisor. And you might think, well, how is it so expensive? Well, you got to have a legal department. You got to create an FDD. You've got to file the FDD. There's some cost to that, right? You got to have a franchise sales team. You got to have a training team. You've got to have a marketing team, right? So if you think about all of those things that cost money to provide value to a franchisee. So if you're an emerging franchisor and you have 25 locations, unless you have very high revenues, like if your franchisees are averaging $4 million a year in sales, then that measurement to get to royalty self-sufficiency, you need fewer locations. But there aren't many brands that hit an average of $4 million or $10 million in sales. I know a couple that do, but they're very, very rare. So if you are an emerging franchisor with under 100 locations, chances are you're not paying all the bills. And then you get a little hungry and you might sell franchises to people you shouldn't sell franchises to because you need cash flow to make payroll, right? And so very often these platform companies have the ability of buying some of those brands and then having shared services. In other words, you don't need to have a CFO at every brand. You can have one CFO. You need some accountants for every brand, right? You don't need a VP of franchise development for every brand. You could have a development team that is handling those functions. So it allows you to get some real scalability. I try to keep track of every platform, franchisor, multi-brand company in franchising, and I think I'm at 110 or 112 right now.
Wow.
And they keep coming up. I mean, I know one particular private equity firm that just bought a brand that we were looking at, and they're planning to make that the start of a platform company. So, and that's in the beauty and wellness space. So that's going to continue to be a trend, and that is because of that challenge of getting to royalty self-sufficiency. And if you were to look at all 3,000, 3,500 franchise brands in the US today, less than 20% have over 400 locations. So the vast majority are under 50 locations, right? And so that's why this platform company is a value actually to each of those brands, right? Is so that you can share some of those expenses and overhead and continue to do great support to the franchisees. Because if you're in a situation where your franchisor can't provide great support because they don't have enough money, because they're not getting enough royalty dollars from the existing base, that can be an issue or a challenge.
Yeah, and that's why I think it's only 2% of all franchises started get to 100 units or more. Is that the right statistic?
It's a very low,
very small,
very small. And so you have to really think. You have to give serious consideration if you're a franchise candidate of buying a franchise in a small chain. You have to really do your due diligence. You have to maybe even do some math to say, how many locations are they going to have to get to at their average unit volume, at their royalty, to make sure that they can pay all these expenses for the legal department, the IT department, the marketing department, the training department, the construction department, the real estate department, all of those different functions.
It's a lot of good info. And
It's
for,
great,
for those that, because there's a lot, we get approached a lot too by businesses that want to become a franchise. And we always try to impress on them how much it's expensive to do that.
It's expensive.
It's not just becoming a franchise. There's all the stuff that happens afterwards that you have to fund.
And you have to do well in order to take good care of your franchisees.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very insightful information. So one last question, or comment, I guess, Catherine, is Roxanne and I are just seeing so many more women clients, women that want to be business owners for a variety of reasons. Some have been out, maybe staying home with kids and want to go back and generate an income, but don't want to go back to corporate America. And others, I mean, my most recent placement, she just left corporate America and wanted flexibility of being an entrepreneur. And you're such an advocate for women in franchising. So we just want to know a little bit of your take on that topic.
Well, I can understand that there are women who would want to get out of corporate America because people have biases, people have thoughts. There's politics in corporate America, and I think the bigger the company, the worse it is. I've worked in a company that had 20,000 employees, and then I went to one that had 5,000 employees. And then I went to Sir Speedy Printing Centers where I was one of about 50 employees, right? And what I found is in the smaller environment, I was able to have bigger impact and I had greater visibility and a better opportunity to talk to the president and learn from him, right? As opposed to if you're one of 50,000 employees at a big company, when are you ever going to get to even meet the president, right?
Yeah.
You'd be lucky if you see him walk by one day. So what I love about franchising is you find a brand you're passionate about, you find a business you can get excited about, and then you apply your knowledge, your hard work. You follow the system. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female. It doesn't matter if you're gay or straight. It doesn't matter if you're black or white or some color in between, because you get to control your own destiny. And I think women are finding that to be very liberating, particularly if they've been in the big corporate environment where there's a lot of rules, there's a lot of politics, and you got to, play certain games, whatever you want to call it, to get those advancements opportunities. And you can actually, if we take a look at where most wealth is created, it is in the families that own small businesses. And a single woman can be a family. Later, she can have children. But that creating that wealth for the family is a very motivating thing. In the corporate environment, you get your salary. Maybe you're lucky enough to get a bonus too. Only at the very upper echelons do you even have stock options, right? But the wealth creation vehicle of owning your own business is really, really powerful. And franchising brings that to women, to men, to everybody. And then you work hard, you create great culture for your employees, you take great care of your customers, you do an outstanding job, you build your business, and you get to benefit from the profits that come from that.
That is an excellent way to wrap up today. I mean, just such a profound statement just about franchising and all the benefits of franchising. So we are so grateful for you taking time out, Catherine, to join us today. If somebody wanted to know more about Propelled Brands, where would they go to find that?
Go to propelledbrands.com. And that would be the place to go. And I just have to say, this has been so much fun. Roxanne and Sarah, I hope you invite me back.
We would love that.
Yes, we would love that. I'm sure there's so much more that you have to share that we didn't have time for today.
In your 40 years that you could share.
When you have 4 years of experience, right? There's a lot to share. That's true.
Well, again, we are honored to have you. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Again, my name is Sarah Waskow. Last name is Waskow. My colleague Roxanne Rapsky is with me. Please look for us on LinkedIn. We're very active there. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is FranNet of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Oklahoma. And you can also listen to any of these podcasts wherever you like to get your podcast, whatever platform you use. We would love to have you listen to other episodes. And thank you again for joining us. Have a great day.
Bye.